Welcome, everyone, to our presentation entitled A New Model for Immersive Education, Manufacturing Innovation and Connection. Thank you to A4LE and all of the conference organizers for orchestrating this terrific event. I'm Chuck Riddle-Lavage. I'm the Education Practice Area Leader for Gensler in the Southeast region. I've spent the past 20 years or so focused on educational environments for students at colleges and universities. Really pleased to be here this morning. And with me today is Kathy Montero.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank the Association for Learning Environments for the opportunity to be part of this case study. Designed by Gensler Architects, I am the Director of Design and Construction here at Wake Tech Community College. I currently oversee 2.5 million square feet of space. Also, we have 9 campuses, plus 1 online campus. One of the major capital projects is the Hendricks Automotive Center for Excellence, which is our focus of today. And with that, I will turn it to Ben.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Andrews. I am a design manager at the Gensler office in Raleigh, and I'm super excited to take you through a recently completed or almost completed Hendricks Center for Automotive Excellence in North Raleigh. Thank you for having us.
So over the next hour or so, we want to focus on a few things. First, we want to talk a little bit about hands-on learning and what that means on today's campus environment. Secondly, I want to give a little bit of detail about the Education Engagement Index. We have some research findings that are applicable to this project. Third, Kathy is going to give a little bit of an overview on Wake Tech and all the exciting things that are happening at their campuses. Then Ben is going to take us through the Hendricks Center itself. And then we've left some time to have a little bit of a panel discussion with some questions and answers about the project. So one of the things that differentiates Gensler is the amount of research that we do, not just related to our projects, but really the experience of faculty, students, and administrators on campus. And so over the past 10 years, we've really seen 3 areas of opportunity. The first is really about engagement. And engagement equals success. The more active your learners are, the more likely they are to be successful both on campus and their time after they leave campus. Secondly is inclusivity. We want to make sure our spaces welcome all, and that means across the entire community. So we always want to make sure those environments feel appropriate so that all students feel like they are part of that environment. The third area that we're seeing a lot of opportunity, not surprisingly, is in technology. And this kind of is manifesting itself in 2 ways. The first is within our building designs. How do we have the flexibility to change a particular project need over time, or how it can meet that need? And the second is really related to industry partnerships and how we're creating a workforce prepared for the future. And of course, that world, even in something like automotive, is a high-tech world. And a lot of our research is also based around our study of the learning modes. And there's been evolving brain science over the past 5 to 8 years on this, and we learn information in different ways. So having multisensory experiences and applying knowledge, it increases retention. So there's a trend toward immersive environments that replicate where students are headed in their future job or career. And so over the past year or so, we've held several research and focus groups in the pandemic, focused specifically around hands-on learning. And a couple of those key findings center around the following. The first is on what we'll call lab and shop culture. This is really, really important to driving the success of hands-on learning environments. So just the idea that students are working together on projects that have that kind of shared camaraderie around their major, around their program study, is really important. The second thing that we're seeing and we're hearing from students is we've called it the death of the lecture hall. And so, standard content delivery is working just fine in a remote fashion. So that really means that our spaces on campus are there to help students and faculty engage. And that's both with each other, but also with sophisticated equipment. The other thing is, and this relates to those learning modes, is the idea of a build, try, test cycle. So this is an opportunity to apply theory to practice. So, rather than learning or taking an entire semester to learn the theory, let's say, behind combustion engines, the idea is that you're working from the theory, taking that right into the shop, applying it, testing it, creating it, seeing how it works, figuring out where to improve, and going through it again. And so over the past year, as I mentioned, we've been studying the impact of the pandemic. And as we're coming out of it, this is really an opportunity to rethink the future of learning space on campus. And so specifically, we're excited to offer some of the highlights from our Education Engagement Index and also how they apply to community colleges specifically. One of the things I wanted to note is that this is a national survey. So these are not Gensler clients. As you can see, we've surveyed over 2,500 students and 500 educators across the US. These are some of the big findings. And this is really, as I mentioned, a lens to the future. So this is setting up the context for the future of space and really the value proposition of being on campus. This is the why. Why do students want to come to campus? Why do faculty need to be there? Why does it make sense over the long term? And so this is just showing some of those results in terms of how there's been a huge impact on experiential learning and socializing, which of course are those activities that are in key to engagement. But one of the other interesting findings, if you look at, say, Reflect or Acquire, where there's a lot of individual work involved there, that has also become less effective. And so that starts to ask us why, and it might mean that our students are having trouble with focus, irrespective of the learning mode. So in some ways, that blurring hasn't worked too well for our students. So as we're thinking to the future, it's not really saying, all right, well, we're just going to come back to campus and it's going to be how it was. But we want to think about how we can make sure we're changing it to be the most effective environments, those most engaging environments. And related to that is motivation. So students across the board have been negatively impacted and feel less motivated in terms of their drive to learn. So as we're thinking about our students on campus, we want to make sure we're having, for example, public spaces that have visibility and connection, that we have those opportunities to see into labs, to see all of the great things that are happening. And it asks us that question about, well, what inspires us to learn? So we're looking to create that wow factor. And this represents spaces, as we said, in this particular facility, where the types of spaces where students will work upon graduation. One of the other things that our findings focused on was quality relationships. And our results are showing that these have suffered across the board. So again, with that eye toward the future, we want to make sure we're rebuilding and strengthening those as we look to the future. And you can also see that these are not just relationships between peer to peer, but it's also between peer to faculty as well. And this kind of dives in a little bit deeper on the relationship with students and faculty. And you can see just the positive impact that even if you have one close relationship between a student and faculty, how critical that is. And so as we're thinking about our facilities, as we're planning them, we want to make sure we're thinking about how and where we locate faculty spaces to kind of create those accidental connection points where students and faculty are bumping into each other. So this is an interesting finding. Of course, Gensler, in addition to doing education facilities, we also do a lot of facilities in many different industries. And so the bottom bar here indicates the interest in hybrid working among the US workforce in general. And you can see it's actually even higher. That's the orange bar, represents where students and educators feel about this. So the future is definitely hybrid. And this is a moment where, again, when we think about spaces for the future, we want to make sure we're accommodating this. And then even within the different higher education demographics, you can see that hybrid for community college is highly desirable. And our as we dove into this, this really speaks to how busy community college students are. A typical community college student might have a job, may also have family obligations. So those obligations outside of school mean they want flexibility. So that's one of the reasons why they are attracted to the hybrid model. But then finally, looking at campus itself and the facilities on campus, it's a magnet for people. And want to be clear that, while this thing talks about socializing, for what we found with our community college students, this is focused really on work, those labs, that practical training. So in working in groups, it's the students finding that support network that really helps them be successful in their studies. And then not surprisingly, as students are coming back to campus, that hands-on time in the lab and in shops, working in small groups with faculty who are there to guide, coach, and help them is really, really critical. And so with that, I'm going to turn it to Kathy.
Thank you, Chuck. A brief history of Wake Tech Community College. We began when chartered on April 3rd of 1958. That is when Wake Technical Community College was founded as the Wake County Industrial Education Center. The school enrolls students in vocational training, industrial training programs, and general curriculum study programs. The community college received its first accreditation in 1969 from the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, with its first location being the South Campus. The institution became known as Wake Technical Community College on December 1st of 1987. WTCC is the largest community college in North Carolina. The opportunities that Wake Tech offers our students is special. Your traditional student has many faces: those seeking a second profession, those who are coming back from the workforce, single working parents, and the student that lives with their aunt, uncle, or grandparents. What has attracted me to Wake Tech Community College is the passion of community, encouraging student success, embracing partnerships for the continued student success stories. Wake Tech provides education and services to over 70,000 students throughout 10 campuses within Wake County. A few to mention are the South Campus, which is our main campus, Perry Health Science Campus, RTP Campus, and the Northern Wake Campus. Soon, there will be an East Wake Campus. Northern Wake Campus, which is the home for Wake Tech's Corporate and Building Solutions Division, which provides customized corporate training, career programs in baking and pastry arts, HVAC, plumbing, building automation, health and fitness science, sits on a 127-acre campus. The newest building on this campus, the Hendricks Automotive Center for Excellence, is a collaborative vision that Gensler has translated into a reality with the integration of connections between the classroom and the lab. Strong ideas with sharing the teaching and learning experience with the public, our guests, our students, faculty, staff, and parents. Wake Tech has been teaching automotive and engine repair since the 1950s. Engines and heavy equipment was the traditional core for the area as an agricultural state, with the use of tractors and trucks. Here, we're moving forward in time through the evolution of the automotive industry and technology, where the back of the main campus is now the public forefront of automotive technology. This is a 70-year of automotive training. Our North Campus is an example of community engagement and partnership with the industry, preparing a highly qualified workforce. The case study you're about to hear from Ben will provide you with how Wake Tech, working with Gensler, used the learning spaces to invite and embrace the teaching and learning experience. Corridor spaces as meeting spaces. Informal gatherings to meet as additional learning hubs for those who want to be a part of the excitement. Hear about the passion of what is happening in class and absorbing the technology seen through the niches created as you walk from one end of the building to another. As a result, creating that visibility and connection, the socializing and collaborating, experiencing, the shared learning activities as mentioned previously by Chuck. The natural environment, daylight, plays an important role in the entire well portion of the building. This case study designed by Gensler has a story to tell with how Wake Tech engages and partners for our student success. There is a brief video next with our president, Dr. Rawls, presenting a glimpse of our future East Wake campus. Soon after this clip, Ben will continue presenting this case study. Thank you.
Well, we believe at Wake Tech that Eastern Wake 4.0 site is where we need to be. It rounds out our college campus, if you will. We have campuses, Northern Campus, Original Southern Campus, 2 campuses in Western Wake. Eastern Wake, we have a small training site, but we don't have a strong presence as a place that we think we're needed as Wake Tech. It's an area of our community that's growing. Wendell Falls, Zebulon, Knightdale, some of the fastest growing communities in North Carolina, not just in Wake County. It's an area that is housing affordable, and that means for many of the Wake Tech families who look for Wake Tech, many of them will be locating in this region as our area grows. It's also an area that struggles more than other parts of the region in terms of educational attainment, high school attainment, college going rates, and college completion attainment. And so we think we can make a big difference here in Eastern Wake. Another big reason is at Wake Tech, we don't want to just be a part of an economic recovery. With our economic and educational collaborators, we want to lead an economic resurgence for this region.
What it's going to mean not only for our entire county, but for Eastern Wake in particular. And to me, it really signifies something that Wake Tech's been for a long time, which is a true driver of growth in our community. So in this sense, this new campus aligns with the growth of our community and the future growth of our community. And so it's this perfect alignment between the demographic growth that we're going to see in Eastern Wake County in the years to come, as well as Wake Tech's continued support for economic development and economic mobility in our community. I'm really excited about the prospects for the campus and for Eastern Wake County.
The reason we call this 4.0 site is this will be a new site for us in terms of a new technology future, the future where operations and infrastructure converge with information technology in a world of the Internet of Things, which will change the dynamics and the skill sets and the employment opportunities for technicians with the right skills to work in that new connected economy of infrastructure and technology. And for Wake Tech, with this Eastern Wake 4.0 site, we'll be right in the middle of that sweet spot as we move forward.
Phase 1 of the site development will provide for 2 state-of-the-art facilities that will further us down this road. A Tech 4.0 facility will house programs supporting smart manufacturing, including mechatronics, microelectronics, and automation.
Well, this new site for us is not just about new geography. It's about new opportunity, new employment opportunities, and really a new technology training and education future for Wake Tech. And in that regard, we haven't been flying blindly. We've been working closely with our collaborators. We're a very jobs-focused, I like to think of Wake Tech as one of the most employment-focused, technology-forward colleges in the country. And in that regard, we collaborate on a daily basis with our employment industry partners. Some of those have been national groups, like a new relationship we have formed with SEMI, which is a national association of advanced electronics and semiconductor companies around the country, and we will be a pilot site for SEMI. We're working with the ISA, the International Society of Automation, who we had a conversation with yesterday. Multiple groups and multiple individual employers, some that are just right around the corner here, and like Siemens, Amazon with their new presence. IBM and others have participated with us in helping to think about what this campus should be for the future of employment in this region that can be so dynamic and has so much opportunity to grow.
In addition to supporting these program areas, the Tech 4.0 facility will also support our new apprenticeship partnership with the National Association of Tower Erectors, focused on the repair and maintenance of 5G cell towers. And it will also serve as a new home for our biopharmaceutical technology program and an additional site for non-degree biowork training that supports companies like GlaxoSmithKline in nearby Zebulon.
We're also collaborating very closely with our educational partners. East Wake High School's right around the corner here. That's not by accident. That's part of the strategic reason for us to be here. Nightdale High School just down the road, places we need that presence, and so our conversations with our great partners at Wake County Public Schools. But we're also very excited about that connection we will bring with our university partners. Wake Tech and community colleges are really, as I like to think of, the seam and seamless education, and this will be a site of seamless education.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to talk to you today about the Hendricks Center for Automotive Excellence. And I wanted to thank Chuck and Kathy for that, that great introduction. I hope to take you through a series of slides and construction images today that touch on some of the points that Chuck and Kathy just took you through. The Hendricks Center for Automotive Excellence started as a vision in the Wake Tech group many years ago. The process with Gensler started 4 years ago, but the Wake Tech process started decades ago through the experience that Kathy just talked about. What started as an idea to make automotive and collision education better has been built as a 110,000 square foot facility on their North Campus. This building includes specialized labs with industry standard equipment and large gathering spaces in order to connect to the college, the students, and the industry. Today, I'm gonna take you through our process and how we engaged with both the faculty, the students, and the industry leaders. We started this process really by just listening and taking lots of notes. We were afforded the ability to do a programming and visioning 3-month process with Wake Tech. And we started by having a series of visioning sessions, and the image to the left shows some of those results and the free flow of information that we then organized and created a vision statement from. In addition to our conversations and sessions with executives, stakeholders, faculty, and user groups, we also shadowed students and faculty as we tried to get a sense of a day in the life of a student in their current facility. Coming out of our visioning session, we knew that this facility needed to create spaces that elevate and inspire. And the next generation of students and technical thinkers was going to be produced through this building. And at the end of the day, I think we realized through the help of Wake Tech that this building really had more in common with a high-tech building than the stereotypical greasy, oily garage, and that we wanted students to be inspired the same way that young employees were inspired walking into Google or Apple. Before we got to do any drawing or designing, there's a quantitative approach that we take to programming. And this included visiting other technical community colleges that had automotive schools. It also included tapping into our Dallas office that designs a lot of dealerships and corporate training centers for automotive manufacturers. As we went through this process, we gathered that information and added certain new equipment, new programmatic rooms, in order to prioritize what the faculty needed and what we believed the industry was going to need over the next 15 to 30 years. All this was organized into essentially a huge Excel sheet that we then developed into blocking and stacking diagrams that you see here. During this lengthy process, the sketches that engaged the site and the topography and the budget could only be realized after this very quantitative process of programming. The site for this project was a huge gift to us as designers. The site is at the corner of two very public streets that really create a crossroads in a growing area of North Raleigh. And I think what our goal with the siting of this building was to create a strong visual presence in that public space at that corner. And I think all too often the older model for community college buildings is really to place a large classroom building behind a big parking lot because you have commuter students. And we really wanted to reverse or invert that model. And so by pushing the classrooms and the labs up against the street, we've really taken advantage of pedestrians and passing traffic, and at the same time engaging with the topography on this site. Unlike many flat sites, we really had the benefit of almost 30 feet of fall from one side of the site to the other, and that was extremely beneficial in getting cars into our building, because in this building we're not just walking down the corridors, we're driving and rolling carts with full engines and transmissions on them. The concept for this building was extremely exciting. As designers, we were so inspired by automotive design, racing, and even exhibitions. We quickly felt like the high-tech shops of these spaces, the labs that emulated the dealership environment, were really the heart of the building. And we wanted everyone, students, faculty, and visitors, to be able to engage with that work being done. These images show both inspiration and also section qualities. Too often we think just in plan, and in this building, with the topography and the public space we were up against, we really wanted to take advantage of these sectional qualities. So the different characteristics, it's really two volumes, a large shop volume and a more traditional classroom volume, that have been pushed together and nestled in and underneath each other in order to create those connections. The level one plan of this building is 65,000 square feet. And these labs are large double height spaces that emulate the dealer service centers in the real world, with equipment that was developed with dealers, industry advisors, and the faculty. We're so excited to provide these spaces where students can acquire knowledge, have hands-on experience, and collaborate with each other in small groups. I want to read to you just a few of the labs that we've been able to create and add to this program. Technical automotive service labs, tire and suspension alignment, collision repair, carbon fiber, wash bays, paint booths, tinting and vinyl wrap, sensor and camera calibration, steel and aluminum welding, and engine and transmission dynos. As we move up to the second level of the building, this level is really at the same elevation as the rest of campus and the public streets. And so we are engaging those sidewalks and view corridors at the second level. The second level includes these public spaces such as the lobby, a student cafe, computer labs, and the faculty suite right down at street level adjacent to the lobby. What I want to point out to you today, and I'm so excited to see the students move in, is that we've developed multi-purpose spaces in the public area. It's not just a lobby to move through, and it's not just a cafe to eat or study at. These spaces have been designed as multifunction purposes to be reconfigured. And so the corridors, the cafe, and the lobby will all be used for job fairs, industry events, and even student presentations. The third floor and final floor of the building is most similar with a traditional classroom building. It includes flexible 30 by 30 classrooms with standardized AV so that anyone from the college can come and teach in these spaces. The double loaded corridor creates efficiency for circulation and also for budget. But we did add special storage rooms between each classroom in order to give these traditional lecturers the ability to bring parts and pieces and components out to supplement a lecture on a digital screen. Moving into some of the construction photos and details of the building, natural light was, as Kathy had mentioned, was a really important component to these immersive environments and keeping the students engaged and really able to do precision work in certain labs that are far more complicated and have more requirements than just a traditional classroom. On the exterior of the building, we designed a perforated screen on the south of the building that really emulated and was inspired by the sculpted bent sheet metal on automobiles. But it serves a really important purpose. And this screen knocks down heat gain and glare, which can be, as we know, in educational environments, can be very disruptive. So we worked hard to minimize that. We had a similar goal around the shops. And these images that you see here with the white band over the top 20 feet of that volume, that is a translucent insulated panel. And so again, with a similar goal, but a different execution, we've managed to provide ample natural light within these shop spaces with no glare. And also at a price cheaper than brick, been able to give them an insulated wall that keeps those shops cool as they are fully air-conditioned spaces. The final note on this one, I'm sorry, Chuck, is that these specialized labs, even more so than classrooms, I believe, had to be concerned with glare, because as I'll show you in a few more slides, we have equipment with light sensors that would be affected by glare. And then further, as I mentioned, the students are actually going to be under and over various car parts doing precision work that could not be disrupted by glare from natural light. Looking at the inside of these spaces, I just wanted to point out a couple of additional strategies that were used in order to maximize the teaching environment. So we have motorized window treatments that can be brought down from the lecturer's podium and could be adjusted at any point during class. And then in addition, we used a fritted glass in certain areas of the building in order to eliminate light bounce off of lower roofs that could create glare or distraction. In addition to the shop spaces this image to the left where you can see that natural light coming in and the classroom images that I just showed you, we also thought about natural light and gathering spaces within the faculty suite. And in this image to the right, you see an area up against our glassy curtain wall where faculty members can come outside of their offices and find a casual, inviting environment where they can speak to their coworkers, students, or guests that come to the facility. I wanted to talk a little bit about hybrid classrooms, and I think a lot of times we think about hybrid learning environments these days between online and in-person, but this building has a layering of classroom and lab environments. And these two pictures to the left are engine and transmission rebuild classrooms. And so imagine that you're in a classroom environment, but instead of your book or notebook in front of you, you have a full transmission or engine that has to be rebuilt and fully studied throughout the course of the semester. And the really exciting part about this is on the image on the far right is a Superflow dyno machine. And so imagine if your quote unquote homework was actually tested at the end of the semester on a professional dyno machine, and the performance was really based on horsepower delivered or industry standard performance criteria. The automotive shops and collision shops feature a variety of lifts, and we developed these lift configurations with dealers and industry advisors. But really, they have to be able to maximize the learning ability for today's technology and also the future. On the right, you'll see an in-ground lift that is preferred in educational environments because of safety, circulation, and ease of use. As multiple students try to gather around a car on a lift, this avoids walking into a post or one's view being blocked by a two-post. But despite having multiple different kinds of in-ground lifts, we also wanted to include wide two-post lifts. And this is because we knew with the growing EV market that the battery service requires a two-post lift to drop the entire battery pack out at the bottom. And then this third image, though simple and maybe seeming banal, is just the effort that was made for adapters, because unlike a dealership, we're not just working on one brand or one type of car, but we will be servicing throughout all brands and manufacturers. These are just a few of the images of our educational shop equipment, which again was developed by dealers. And we've actually, as the building has been built at this point, have started to have very collaborative conversations with some of our industry advisors about their dealerships and how they may build them in the future to mimic some of the layout configurations that we developed in this educational facility. But we're extremely excited to have Hunter alignment machines, Carliner frame straighteners, and rotary scissor lifts as just a few of the specialized equipment in this facility. Looking at the collision side and that equipment, we are very proud of the Blowtherm paint booths and downdraft prep booths. Thinking about this in an educational context rather than just a professional or manufacturing context, we have selected paint booths and prep booths with glass panels so that everyone can engage and critique with the work that the students do during their training. We want everybody to be able to participate, experience, observe, and acquire new skills on multiple levels. The two images to the right are students that we observed when we shadowed students and faculty 4 years ago. And in many cases, those students struggled in order to be able to see the work being done. The gentleman with his head in the engine bay of this truck is making adjustments that these students behind him are struggling to observe. For that reason, we've used technology and we have rolling carts and large screen TVs with remote cameras that can project images so that everybody can see. In addition, we want everyone that is not in the shop to be able to observe what's going on from a higher level. And that idea of reflection and kind of, I guess, being inspired by what your either coworkers or co-students are doing. Storage seems like an incredibly banal thing, but in this facility, it was incredibly important. I think anytime that we are preparing for a hands-on pedagogy, the metrics for the amount of storage needed go out the window. In this facility, in the large shops, we have double-door large storage rooms at the head of each stall so that faculty and the college can store the tools needed in order to efficiently teach those students. In the engine and transmission in the engine and transmission rebuild rooms, we had to have room for full engines and transmissions to be stored. And so there is a large shared room with industrial shelving that you could really put a small car on. And then as you move up to the third floor, each classroom, though it is a traditional 30 by 30, has a convenient small storage room where parts and hands-on components can be pulled off the shelf and brought in to supplement a lecture. The in-between spaces always interest designers, and this building is no exception. These in-between student spaces create opportunities for socialization, study, reflection, homework. These images do not reflect the furniture that is yet to be moved into the building, but these construction photos still give you a window into these in-between spaces. To the left, you see a large surface where students could gather with stools and sit around and socialize before class. But it also gives them a large working surface to assemble and study large format electrical wiring diagrams during class. In addition, we have integrated benches with ample power where students can study, relax, socialize, waiting for classes to start. And then even along circulation paths on the exterior of the building, we have created spaces where students can stop, engage, and study with each other. Again, Wake Tech believes, and we very much support the idea that everywhere on campus is a learning opportunity. In the earlier slide, speaking to the siting of this building, we talked about pushing our program, both labs and public spaces, up closer to the street and not hiding behind a large parking lot. The transparency of this building only solidifies that idea of really engaging with public space, the campus, and the community. In this image here, you see the lobby of the building being on access with the center of campus and the library, and the way that the lobby becomes a lantern or a beacon at night for activity. And the image to your far lower right is an early rendering of the cafe space, but instead of tables and chairs for eating and studying, it can quickly be converted into a lecture space for guest speakers and industry visitors. Finally, I wanted to speak a little bit to the benefits of environmental graphics. Because Wake Tech believes that every space on campus is an opportunity for learning, we've taken the opportunity to install environmental graphics throughout almost all of the public spaces. And as you see in these images here, we've incorporated educational diagrams that really double as wall art. But as you can see here, we've taken an exploded axon diagram of an engine component or a car and place those in the benches and waiting spaces around the building for students to discover and be inspired by. Thank you so much for tuning in. We would love to hear from you. Please email us with any questions. I know that Kathy and I are so excited about this building opening and would like to share as much information as we can with the educational community. We're now going to move into a panel discussion, and I'm going to let Chuck moderate that. Thank you again.
Thanks, Ben and Kathy, for that great presentation. So a couple of questions that that we have here. So first up is the aspect of technology. And so we're curious to understand what, and Ben, you talked a lot about all the different, some of the different components there to this, or in this project. What I think might be interesting for our viewers is to understand which aspects of technology did the team, and that means, of course, both Gensler and Waytech working together, which ones did you choose to emphasize and prioritize, and why? And maybe I'll let Ben start, and then Kathy, you can finish up.
Thanks, Chuck. As I mentioned before, we had input from an extremely sophisticated and collaborative group of faculty and stakeholders, but we also were given access to industry leaders and dealers who are watching the trends and seeing real time the new product releases that these future technicians are going to be working on. And so I think we by listening to those different groups, we were able to prioritize the technology that was going to be needed today and tomorrow. And an example of that would be added programmatic elements that we were not aware of originally as we programmed the building, and were incorporated during the design process. For example, we have a lab that will calibrate the sensors and cameras in new cars as the industry marches toward autonomous vehicles. And that was an incredibly important component that the industry asked us for as they struggled to repair cars in their own dealerships and facilities, because this training was not being done, simply because the product and the industry is evolving so quickly. And so we have incorporated that, and we have also created spaces that are flexible enough to do double duty. Hopefully that helps.
Well, if I can add a little bit to that, Gensler has done an excellent job, and the viewers need to understand that as architects, the most important thing is to listen. And with this project, Ben and the team has worked together with our user groups to find out exactly what their needs are. And to that end, exact is not exact, but there was dialogue. So there was the coming and going with the industry partners, with the faculty, the shadowing of what the students do, as Ben, you mentioned previously in this presentation. So that added to the excellent result on what we see today with our projects. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I think, Kathy, you started to touch upon one of the other themes, which is really, really strong. It's clear it's part of Wake Tech, which is about those industry partnerships. And so I guess the question again to maybe to both of you that could help our viewers is, so for others that are out there who might be starting a similar type of project or pursuing industry partnerships, how do you create those types of relationships, and how do you make it a successful collaboration? I think Kathy already touched on listening, but I'm curious to hear from both of you. what are some of those other elements that really makes for that successful partnership?
Well, if you'd like me to start first, with the industry partnership, it does take time to cultivate relationships. And in doing that, you need to share your vision, your master plan, your sort of your business plan. And in this case, in the automotive industry, it was the dealerships. It was working with students, working with the faculty, who they know, working with our foundation. Dr. Rawls does a great job with that. Experiential learning, the hybrid classrooms becomes a very important aspect to certain donorships. It depends on what you're seeking, what the vision is. And in terms of this project, it was the automotive industry. It was the dealerships. Partners want to engage. They want to engage, and students become our future workforce. So even with equipment vendors, we've also engaged with nearby high school students. Technology is changing rapidly, but the drive to learn is not stagnant. So it multiplies when you're given that chance to become a part of that immersive learning process. And if you find partners willing to do that, it becomes a solid, excited, passionate partnership. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. I would say from the designer's perspective, I would encourage designers and architects not to be bashful and not to wait before engaging your industry partners. I think there is a desire throughout the design process to work through SD and to get the drawings done on time, because we all have deadlines, and find a finalized kind of milestone before engaging these groups. But I would say the earlier you can have these conversations and get them involved and share your drawings and your thoughts with them throughout the process, the richer this immersive building is going to be. And I think we did that at each stage, but there were people that we didn't get involved until some of the later stages of design, and I only wish we had talked to them before. Regardless of what those comments are, they could be critical, but I think they're very valuable to the design process. And by listening to those folks, and I think having the advantage of such a strategic and collaborative group of faculty and leaders at Wake Tech to allow us and to put us in the room with those folks has made this just a much stronger project.
It clearly is. So one of the other things I wanted to ask both of you about is this facility itself. So its namesake is the Hendrick Automotive Center. Curious how that relationship developed, and if you could offer advice to other colleges for how this relationship developed and became successful as part of your fundraising efforts.
I'd be happy to speak to that one. I think that same process that I just talked about, and the building of information and refinement on the design side, was also happening parallel in the industry. As we reached out and talked to advisors and industry partners and dealer owners, I think they were also talking to each other about what they were looking for. It piqued their curiosity of how do we get more qualified and well-trained young professionals into our dealerships. And the building is named for Mr. Hendrick, who is the largest dealer in the country. But we also have involvement from another dozen different dealership groups, from Mr. Hendrick on down to smaller local groups and auto parts associations. And so I think really getting out there and talking to people and engaging with them before your foundation and fundraising arm goes out and talks to them about donations and sponsorships, because I think we had an overwhelming response from folks as the building came together and took shape, because they had already engaged it and had a sense of ownership in the building.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Ben. It's that sense of engagement and ownership. And like I said before, to cultivate the relationships does take a long time. So it doesn't happen overnight. And I guess a word of advice is be patient, but take that initiative. And never say no, never say, oh, maybe I should have, could have, would have. Go out there, show your plan, show your passion, and you'd be surprised,
I think
happily
that's,
surprised.
yeah, that's great advice. And so of course Wake Tech receives state funding as well. So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on some of the challenges that might bring. And so what's the biggest challenge on the public procurement process? Particularly, we've been focused on technology. So in keeping with that mission critical technology that's important to the education that you're delivering to your students.
Chuck, thank you. That is a very good question and a very challenging question, because as a public procurement process, we cannot say, I want this particular equipment, or I want to not bid. We need to competitively bid to get everyone involved with the projects, get involved with the public procurement. However, it may not be something that would apply to our design. So what we do, and what Ben did great, is that we need to speak with the end users. How do they use their space? How are they teaching in their space? What are the requirements? It's that transparency and communication back and forth. So we do have to go out to bid, but we do have a way of doing preferred alternates. Now, State Construction Office says we need to have a list of at least 3. So we need to be happy with those 3 preferred alternate. Another way of doing it is having a performance spec. And even there's challenges, but there's no way of going about that. Working with the end user is really the way you need to go to understand what is required to teach. We need to list the 3 manufacturers as preferred vendors and make sure that when we align, if that preferred alternate is the one that we want and we have it in the budget, then we've done our due diligence. And there are times that we cannot pick unless we do have a waiver to say, okay, we need this to meet the system because we've acquired it for security reasons. The only one that I can think of is door hardware or door security. Those are the items that is a must and we can justify. But in terms of other items within the bidding process, it's really listing your preferred alternates and ensuring that you're happy with any one of those 3.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think Kathy mentioned the performance specs, and that puts the architect and the design team need to be very cognizant of the specs and the documentation. When a contractor and subcontractor are going to go out and look at at least three different pieces of equipment for the building. In these high-tech buildings that have unique equipment in almost every room, it does create challenges because different voltage, different compressed air lines, different infrastructure needs can vary just based on manufacturer. And the coordination that you do in the design process, one should anticipate doing almost that equal effort during the construction process as everything comes together. And I think that given that challenge, the one thing that I would add to Kathy's statement is just the working relationship that you develop between the design team and the end users and the contractor and the subs is incredibly important. And I think we were lucky enough to work with Brassfield and Gorey, who is an incredibly collaborative, solutions-oriented contractor, and Wake Tech, who also is a very sophisticated group, that we were able to work through a lot of these problems. But construction is always a bit of a messy process. We know that there are always surprises, and I think the more these immersive education spaces include new technology and complicated equipment with lots of infrastructure, you need to anticipate those challenges ahead of time. So your documentation reflects it, and also the structure of your team and the relationship of how you're going to deal with these things head on when the problems happen, I think is incredibly important.
Absolutely. So one final question about students. And of course, this is a facility that will be all about their education. Curious at Wake Tech if there were any opportunities through the design process to engage students through both design and construction.
So
I'll say that during so I feel very fortunate to have been able to see this project from inception all the way through, and it's been a 4-year process. And there, at the end of the process, we are seeing a lot of faculty and folks touring the space. At the beginning, I would just say that engaging with the students and asking a few questions, and honestly just kind of sitting back and shadowing them for a number of days at their existing facility, I think was very helpful, and we were able to embed the struggles and the things that they liked into the programming and visioning sessions that then led us through each stage of design. And so I do believe that we have embedded input from them, even when they obviously aren't attending design meetings or they simply can't be on site to help us with construction for safety reasons. But I do think that the needs and the input from the students was embedded in this building.
I can add to that moving forward that this was a great initiation of projects involving the students and shadowing the students and getting some input from the students. Moving forward, what I'd like to do is be more transparent, communicate to our student government and our student activities of what is going on, and not have them see that just through a newsletter. My vision is to have at least a construction management or an architecture student, or the person, he or she, that is involved with biology, chemistry, in this case, the automotive industry, be part of those meetings as best they can, and we can do that virtually, so that they understand, not just for that architect or construction management student, but for just a student in general, to see how a project moves from design through construction, but also to see how decisions are made at the table. You know, decisions aren't made in the lecture hall. It's not made in a tablet armchair. It is made at a table, a round table where everyone is situated, and you know every single person, what their accountabilities are, what their visions are, and what the decisiveness has to be. Because again, they are our future workforce. They become who we are and better. So that's my vision. I want to engage them, not just in order for them to provide feedback, but I would like to engage them from beginning to end, so that they can say, wow, this is what it takes for me to be in this school. And boy, you know, let me give back to Wake Tech as I become that young adult and become successful. So it's a big turn from beginning to end as a student, and then as the workforce, and coming back and giving back to Wake Tech. That's my intent.
Well, on that note, Kathy, I think that was a great summation of this wonderful project and what it means for the future, not just of Wake Tech and the students of Wake Tech, but the future of the community and the Raleigh community. So fantastic project, and look forward to doing more of these with both of you. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Chuck.
all. Thank you.